I just watched an anime on Hulu. It's available on Hulu. Not all of it's available on Hulu, but we'll get into that a little bit. It's an anime called Black Lagoon. Black Lagoon. And like I said, it's available on Hulu. So if you don't know, if you're not familiar with what Black Lagoon is, it's about this guy named Rock. He's sent on like a business trip thing to deliver this package, and he gets abducted by these this company of mercenaries called Lagoon Company on a boat called the Lagoon, and they're mercenaries or bounty hunters, and they abduct him and they capture this package for their employers, and they decide to take Rock as a hostage and abduct him as a hostage to get some ransom payment from his employers. Now, when Rock's employers don't pay that ransom and they just kind of let whatever happens to Rock happens, we're not willing to pay your ransom. They don't do anything with Rock, and Rock just kind of becomes part of the crew because he just gets abandoned by his company, and his life that he knew is now over. So, this is his new life. He starts his new life as, a criminal or a mercenary type of guy now. And he's part of the Lagoon Company. Now, the characters on this boat called the Lagoon, there's Dutch, the captain. There's Benny, who's kind of the tech computer guy. And there's Revy, who she's a fucking ultimate badass. She's the badass of the group. And then now we have Rock, who's our main character. This anime is hella similar to a really big famous anime called Cowboy Bebop. If you're familiar with Cowboy Bebop, you kind of know what I'm talking about. This group of mercenaries, bounty hunters, just going job to job, just trying to get by. Run into really interesting characters and develop interesting storylines. You see how characters progress over the episodes. So it's a very similar story and setting. I mean, not very similar setting. This isn't a sci-fi that's in space. It's just kind of like an action thriller show. Takes place in a city known as Roanapur, which is like this criminal underworld city, all mercenaries, crime syndicates, all a bunch of fucked up stuff happen there, and that's where the Lagoon Company operates and gets their work, and that's where they, live, I guess. So, yeah. Very fun show. What does this show do well? Does a lot really well. I actually really enjoyed this show. The action is the main draw to this story. The action is very awesome. It's badass. A little ridiculous, but it's an anime, so it's all action's going to be a little bit ridiculous in an anime, which is totally fine. But it's always interesting and it's badass. Like I said, Revy is the shit. She's awesome. Super badass character. It's also very dark and doesn't shy away from kind of really fucked up topics. Just kind of remember, if you're planning on watching this, just remember the twins, okay? The first 3 episodes in the second season, just remember the twins. It's, it deals, there's a lot of topics dealing with, extreme drug use, sexual slavery, shit like that. Pretty fucked up stuff. So, just look out for that if that's some things that kind of bother you. Maybe steer away from it. But, I mean, still, it's pretty awesome. I mean, it's told really well. I really, really enjoyed it. Probably the best thing that the show does well, along with the awesome action, is the world building and the characters. The characters are awesome. And I'm not just talking about the 4 main ones, like with Rock, Revy, Benny, and Dutch. I'm talking about a bunch of the side characters. Some are mainstays throughout the show. Some are just kind of one-off side characters, and all of them are really interesting, different, and awesome. And some of them get more development than our main characters, which probably wasn't going to always be the case, but we'll get into that a little bit later with what the show doesn't really do well. But like, yeah, I mean, even some of like the minor side characters have like some side developments that you see were gonna develop, but they don't. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, really, no character really was annoying. I mean, I feel like maybe the main character Rock could have been was a little bit annoying at times, but he always kind of had something that redeemed him. He was always like a capable individual. He wasn't just kind of like almost a damsel in distress. I mean, he kind of is that sometimes in a couple episodes, but like he's still capable and, has helped the Lagoon company in a lot of situations, and he always finds a way to be useful, so that makes him a lot more of an interesting character to me than just being like some random guy, not doing anything on this mercenary band, But yeah, and I also really enjoyed the kind of like the story structure. I mean, it's kind of like Bebop a little bit in the way, like how it's very episodic in the beginning, but then eventually develops into these like sort of 3 to like 6 episode long story arcs, especially in season 2. Season 2 is like 2 3-episode story arcs. Sorry, excuse me. And then one final 6-episode ending story arc to conclude the second season, which is awesome. It's really good. I really loved it. I think the 3 main story arcs in the show, the maid Roberta storyline in season 1 is the shit. The twin storyline in season 2 is the shit, and the final 6-episode arc in season 2 is the shit. So there's that. And kind of leads me into talking about what the show doesn't really do well. This show, there's only 2 seasons available on Hulu. I think there's a 3rd season that it's like 5 episodes, but I haven't heard if it's good or not, but I kind of hear that it doesn't give like an actual good conclusion to it. So this show is an open-ended show. Think Firefly, it just kind of ends. There's like no more. But at least with Firefly, there was Serenity, a film that kind of like put a little bow on it. Sorry, I just hit the mic. But there's none of that in this. I mean, at least in the first 2 seasons, there's no closure whatsoever. It's actually it's almost like building to something, but like you don't see it. So like in season 2, like I felt like Dutch and Benny like weren't even involved like in any way in the show. They were like kind of irrelevant throughout the entire season. And like I feel like Rock doesn't develop as much as I would want him to in the 2 seasons of time. But then again, both of these kind of gripes about the show really exist because there's no more episodes. You don't see where it was going. Sorry. You do see where it's going, but you don't actually see where it goes because there's no more episodes. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure the 5 episodes in season 3 are about that Roberta chick, that maid Roberta that I've mentioned is in season 1, who's awesome. But like, I need to see more development in Rock's character. I need to find out more about Dutch and Benny. You don't know anything about them. They're not developed really at all. And I need to know a little bit more about Rev. You kind of know a little bit about her past. She talks about it a little bit, but like you don't know exactly what happened in her past. And you see I want to see Revy and Rock's relationship and develop a lot more, and I want to see their camaraderie develop a little bit more over time. Like it's something that I want to see, and I want to see Rock develop into this like hardened criminal mercenary, which eventually was probably going to happen. And you don't see that. I mean, the purpose of this, I guess, the manga, the comic, the Japanese comic of what the show is based on, kind of went on a really long hiatus. So the show just kind of ran out of material to do. But I think it recently came back. But I mean, I don't think there's any plans to bring back the show. So yeah, it's really unfortunate. It's really, I mean, if not having closure to your shows is something that bothers you, maybe you probably skip this one. But I mean, it's still a really fun show, and I still really recommend it. So, I mean, again, it joins this string of anime that I reviewed on this podcast that is is good and solid. I'm not going to talk about anime that's bad, because I don't waste my time with that. Like, I've watched some shows where I'm just like, I'm kind of uninterested, so I just stop watching it. And I'm not going to talk about it on here because I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste your time. Our time is valuable here. So, anyway. So with that, I would say check Black Lagoon out, if it's interesting. If you like action, if you like really cool characters and a cool world, definitely check it out. It's a fun time, and I don't think you're going to regret watching Black Lagoon. So, yeah, check it out. Hello there. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you're unfamiliar with this channel, this is Nerd Out Sanctuary. I'm your host, Michael. What do I talk about, you say? Well, I talk about anything nerdy. So that's movies, video games, TV shows, comic books every once in a while, books, maybe not, I don't know. Anything that I feel like talking about. I'm a huge nerd. I hope you're a huge nerd, and I hope we can enjoy our nerdiness together here. This is a full audio podcast available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, the major podcast platforms. So consider going over to those and checking out the full version of the episode. And other past episodes, please leave me a review and subscribe on those platforms. If you don't want to do that, clipped, shorter versions of those full episodes will be posted here on YouTube. So consider subscribing and liking the videos for more to support me and future content that I will be producing in the future on nerdy stuff. So yeah, thank you, and see you on the next one.